Hi guys and welcome to today's video. Okay, so today we're doing something very different. So since there's gonna be a lot of new players coming to the game, I believe, because of like releases in various parts of the world and whatnot, and also like to be honest, a lot of my friends are also beginners. So like I felt like maybe I can, do something different this time around. Make a small guide explaining, the basic stuff. Basically, give everybody a like small rundown of everything. You basically need to know to like play the game at like a basic level. I'm saying like too many times. I'm so sorry. I'm very nervous. So yeah. Okay, so I'll just begin with like talking about the main roles in the game. So yeah. If you have like difficulty remembering, like might as well maybe make a note if you want to, or like I'll just tell you for now. I'm so nervous. I'm so sorry. But yeah. So let's go. There's mainly like, okay, mainly as in these are the 5 archetypes that comes to roles, right? There are sub roles as well, but for now I'll just tell you this. It's basically the 3 lanes and the jungle. So those 3 lanes and the jungle require 5 characters. Those 5 characters will be the 5 people on your team, correct? And your lineup should be accordingly, right? Like you have to pick characters accordingly. I know if you're a solo queue player, you're probably gonna have some trouble because not everybody's gonna be willing to adjust, right? But like, yeah, let me just tell you the 5 overall types of characters. So first off, I'll start off with the dragon lane, I guess, because like that's the one, the most confusion happens most often in the solo queue. If you have a duo, if you have somebody to play with, the dragon lane is your best bet to like play, because you can just play with your friend and just chill out, right? But like, yeah, okay, so let me tell you, the dragon lane, there'll be 2 characters in the dragon lane, two players from each team, so 4 players in total will be in the dragon lane. Those 2 players from your team, they should be the ADC as in the marksman character, right? The ranged, usually it's a ranged character that does physical damage from a distance. There are special cases where they can be built hybrid, but usually they do physical damage from a distance. That will be your ADC. And the other character in the very same lane will be the support, okay? The support is basically is any character that can keep your ADC alive and can still perform efficiently without taking creep score, without taking the last hit of minions, without requiring gold, without requiring a lot of items. That is your support character. Your ADC, on the other hand, requires all the gold, desperately needs items, otherwise it's pretty much useless. That character will be useless in game if it does not scale properly. So let me give you some examples. Okay, so this is my Smurf, so I probably don't have all the champions. So let's see. I think this is support. Yeah, definitely support. I think I'm not sure. I don't know these symbols. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, a bunch of these are support characters. Rakan is a support. Alistar is a support. Annie can be played support. I don't really recommend it. Janna is a very good support. Braum is an excellent support. Blitzcrank is a very nice support in my opinion. This is just my personal opinion. A lot of people don't like Blitzcrank. Is like his kit is very, if you don't land the hook, you don't get anything done. But like I can land the hook, so I find him like really fun. Leona is a very good support. Lulu is a very good support. So what do all of these champions have in common? They can keep your ADC alive. They can do a lot for team fights in the late game because of their CC or some other skill they have. And yeah, that's pretty much it. They give a lot of utility basically. There's usually like 2 main archetypes or 2 subtypes among the supports. Those are the caster type supports like Janna, Lux, Lulu, Sona, and then fake Sona, Soraka, Nami. So all of these characters, what they have in common, they don't have a lot of HP, but they can support your ADC in different ways. For example, Janna offers CC in the form of knock-up with her first skill. She can give shield with her third skill, and she can heal with her final skill, right? And then there's Sona. Sona heals overall. She heals quite a bit. Soraka heals quite a bit. Lulu can give shield, she can give a boosted attack speed, and her ult makes you a big chonky boy. Which basically, this was part of the meta last time. Lulu and Jinx, Lulu and Olaf, because that skill and plus the attack speed just kind of makes you unkillable after a certain point in the game. And then we have tanky supports like Braum, like Alistar, like even Malphite if you know what to do with him. Also Blitzcrank. Blitzcrank can be a very good tanky support if you can use him. But like again, if you're a beginner, you can have some fun with it. Honestly, I'm not even gonna lie. But like in the later stages of the game, he's not very viable because he can't do much. If he misses his hook or doesn't time it correctly, you catch the wrong person, he comes in and kills your whole team. You don't want to see that now, do you? So yeah, that's about it for the support characters. Let's look for the ADCs now. Time to figure out this symbol. I hope it's this one. Okay, yeah, this is the ADC. Why does it look like that? Why can't they just put a gun? A gun would do so much, so much good. Because all of them pretty much shoot, right? So yeah. Okay, out of these ADCs, let me just put this into perspective for you. Most of them cannot do anything in the early game. Most of them cannot do anything. It's your support's job to keep them alive, right? So the only ones that can do anything are one, Draven. Draven does some damage in the early game, but like again, if you're a beginner, I don't recommend you play this guy because like you have to catch his axe to keep on doing extra damage and whatnot. He's not very simple, you know. So if you're starting out with an ADC, start with something easy until you get used to the basics of the game. Then immediately pick a champion you want to master and then go for it, right? If you want to push rank, if your objective is not just to play the game, have fun and get good at it, if you want to push rank, then you're gonna have to learn the meta champions because like the meta is always gonna be like a step above non-meta champions, right? Overall, because like if you can be extremely good at a non-meta champion, but it's very likely that you know you might lose out to a meta champion that's not been mastered completely to the extent you mastered your champion. Why? Because balance in the game, right? Not every champion is balanced in the same way. For example, Galio just came out recently. He is so broken. I'm not even joking. He's so broken. So yeah. So again, I'm going off topic, but then let's talk about the ADCs again. I think I'm losing my voice. I'm nervous, kind of. Let me just have a sip of water, yeah. Okay, so among the ADCs, there's two types of ADCs. Actually, there's mainly only one type. The only difference being Jhin, I think, in my opinion. But then again, it's my opinion. So most of them use attack speed, right? They build attack speed and attack damage. So their damage per second is very high. The only difference being Jhin, he uses burst damage. He does burst damage. The problem with being that way is that you don't do much to tanks. So personally, I don't play Jhin anymore because right now it's the tank meta. It's kind of pointless to be playing Jhin because you don't do anything in team fights if you constantly keep hitting the tank by some chance. The attack speed ADCs are significantly better in terms of actual usage in the game. Miss Fortune was meta for a long time. Jinx was meta in the previous patch because of Lulu. Kai'Sa is a very good marksman. Kai'Sa can also be built hybrid, so she can be both attack damage and ability power based. Same for Varus. AP Varus is not bad, I tried it. So yeah, my point being most of these champions cannot do anything in the early game. They scale towards the late game with items, and then by the end of the game, most likely, in most cases, your ADC will be doing the most damage on your team, in most cases. But if you constantly die, you're not going to get anything done. So let me tell you the overall your job in the Dragon Lane. If you're the ADC, your job is to last hit the minions. Make sure you get the last hit on every single minion to maximize how much gold you have. Keep doing this till you have some items, 1 or 2 items, depending on which ADC you're playing. Then you start doing some amount of damage. You can start joining the fight. You can be a little aggressive in lane. But until then, your job is to be as passive as possible, play defensively, be careful. Because the Dragon Lane is the lane that gets ganked the most, right? By the jungler or the mid laner of the other team. They'll try to get you killed. Because as long as you remain dead, you're behind in gold. So your objective is to get CS, stay alive, right? And for the support character in your lane, his job is to keep you alive. But if you're being foolish, right? Okay, this is just me giving advice to people who are just starting. If you be foolish and you die because of your overextension in the lane, please don't be like toxic. Okay, don't blame your support. If you overextend, there's only so much they can do for you, right? Same goes for the support. If your ADC, is still is struggling and you're both running away, you're both under the turret, please try to save your ADC. Please don't just run. If you can save your ADC but you die, but your ADC survives, it's better, because as the game goes on, if your ADC is ahead in gold, it will be much easier for you in team fights, because if you're a support character, you don't need much gold. You can still do a lot, so it's okay if you die. But if both of you are dying, it's okay for you to run away. If you're sure both of you will die, but if you can save your ADC, then please do that. So yeah, basically, so again, like I said, I'll repeat this once more. As the ADC, your job, stay alive, farm up. Once you have items, join the fights. Your job as a support, keep your ADC alive. And in the later game, try to keep as many people as possible alive in the team fights. Right? If you're a tanky support, you can do so much because you have a lot of CC, you have a lot of life, even you might survive. If you're a caster support, do whatever you can with your abilities. Heal your team, CC the other team, charm them, whatever you can do. Although, this is personal preference, but please don't use Seraphine. Seraphine is not a good support character if you're starting out, because she will probably steal CS from your ADC, and if you're playing like solo queue, you're probably going to piss off your ADC, because you're going to take all of the gold. It's kind of counterproductive, so just don't, right? Let's go for the other lanes now. Which one do I do? Maybe I do Baron lane now. So I think, no, is this Baron lane? Okay, yeah, this is, I think this is Baron lane, but yeah. So the Baron lane is lane with the Baron pit near it. The Dragon lane is the one near with the Dragon pit near it, right? So obviously the Baron lane is on the other end of the map. In most games, this is the most peaceful lane. If I'm very tired, some days I just play the Baron lane because it's so peaceful. Okay, I need another sip of water. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm actually losing my voice. I'm so nervous. Okay, so let me talk about the Baron lane right now. Come on, Darius. Come on, get clicked. Okay, cool. So the Baron lane is relatively peaceful in most games. So the thing is, it's basically just like any other lane, but the difference being unlike the Dragon lane, there's only one guy against you in this lane unless the jungler ganks. So the early game is usually very peaceful, depending on the champions, by the way. If you're mismatched against the enemy, if you're a melee champion and the enemy Baron laner is ranged, you're probably gonna get bullied. But in most circumstances, you can just peacefully farm, focus on getting CS, slowly play the game, outpoke the enemy, out trade the enemy. Basically, what you have to do is, one, get the last hit on the minions. If possible, get some damage out on the enemy. But if you feel like the enemy is gonna do more damage to you than you do to the enemy, don't go for it. Don't go for bad trades. But most of all, watch out for the jungler. That's it. So mostly in the early game, nothing happens in the Baron lane. The only two things that can happen in the early game, one is you get ganked. Then you either you kill them somehow, depending on your champion. If I'm playing Darius, there's a good chance that I might get double kill there, depending on who my opponent Baron laner is, because I've gotten used to playing the champion. But if most other characters that can't do much in the early game, because Darius has an advantage where if you get enough stacks, you can do quite a bit, right? But most Baron laners try to get the hell out of there, right? Don't die. That's your objective there. If you get ganked, try to stay behind and get CS. If you don't get ganked, the first major event that will happen on the map where you will be required is when the dragon spawns, because there's a very good chance that both teams are gonna have an all-out brawl in the dragon pit. Don't ask me why. I don't know why we do this. It's kind of counterproductive, because you actually give away a lot of gold in the early game by doing this, because if you go there and die. But where I'm playing right now, for the region I'm in, when the dragon spawns, everybody goes to the dragon pit. There's a huge fight, right? So what you have to do here, you need to know what champion you're playing in the Baron lane. If you're a champion that can do quite a bit for your team in the dragon fight, please go there. Please go there and help your team, right? Suppose you're a Malphite, okay? You have your ult. You can make so much of a difference in the the dragon pit. You go there, you ult the enemy team. 9 out of 10 times, that person you ulted is going to die, right? Or suppose you're Darius. Please go there because you find their tank or their support or whoever is the weakest on their team. You stack up. You can pretty much get 1, 2, 3, sometimes 4 kills there quite easily. If it's all about luck at the end of the day, right? You have to be careful, right? Sometimes you go there, you might just die, but as long as your team gets the dragon and wins, in terms of trades, it's still positive for your team. So you need to be smart if you're a Baron laner, because there's a lot to think about. On the other hand, if you're a Baron laner that can't make much of a difference, if you're already behind in your lane, right, and then you decide to go to the dragon pit and you die, your entire team dies, you're going to lose that game, right? Suppose you're playing Fiora, okay, and you're behind in gold for some reason. The enemy Baron laner has gone. He's left the lane. He's gone to the dragon pit, correct? What do? It would be better for you to clear your wave and push the first turret, because Fiora is very good at split pushing. Fiora, Camille, who else? Even sometimes Garen. All of these champions are very good at split pushing. So if you can get the first turret, you have a huge map advantage already, because now you're free to roam. You can go mid lane, support, whatever. You not support as in mid lane, and help with getting the next star or rotate to some other lane, because you have a map advantage in your lane now, right? Again, the dragon thing, right? The dragon pit. You also need to focus on which dragon it is. If it's like the infernal dragon, regardless of which Baron laner you are, please go, right? Because that dragon is very important. It might not make a big difference in the early game, but as the game goes on, the buff from the infernal dragon will make a huge difference. So for that one is worth fighting at any cost. But otherwise, any other dragon, please assess what you might lose or the situation and play accordingly. So that's about it for the early game in the Baron lane. Otherwise, the Baron lane is pretty much from the mid game on. If you got the turret in that lane, you're pretty much roaming the map, trying to get kills, support your team and whatnot. If you're a split push hero though, and suppose you're Fiora once again, you're split push hero, very good at taking towers, right? Your entire team is fighting 4 people versus 5 in the dragon lane, and you're right now you're in the Baron lane. Don't take the time to run till there, because they're gonna die, right? Inevitably, most likely they're gonna die. Or even if they don't die and they escape, even if you go there and if you go there and they're all dead, you're just gonna get killed. So what's the best thing you can do? It's better you split push. Why? 1, if you put pressure in your lane, the 5 enemy people are not going to stay in that lane. They'll have to come to the other lane. Why? Because you'll get the tower there otherwise. So you'll take pressure away from the lane that's getting crowded. 2, it helps your team escape if you're fast enough. Otherwise, even if they die, the enemy team can't do too much in that lane. Again, why? Because you're putting pressure in the other lane. So you need to be smart when you're playing the Baron lane. But in my opinion, it's one of the chillest lanes, because this, in most games it's very uneventful in that lane. And some of the champions are very simple to use, like Malphite. You don't really need to know anything to play Malphite. You just need to learn how to poke with his first skill and make sure you land his ult. That's pretty much it. So it's very beginner friendly. Like if you watch one guide somewhere, you pretty much got it. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the Baron lane. Now what's left? Mid lane. Let's talk about mid lane. Is this mid? Yeah, this is mid. So the mid lane is a very diverse lane. There's so many different types of champion. There's a lot of mages. There's a lot of assassins. There's a lot of AP based characters. A lot of physical based characters, right? For example, this is a mage. This is an oh shit. Oh, my bad. This is a mage, this is an assassin, another assassin. I do not know why Ezreal is here. This is an assassin, this is a mage, this is also a mage. Let's look for some physical characters. This is physical. Not sure why Sona is there, but okay. Actually, I played Sona in one mid lane, one of the games. But yeah, so there's a bunch of different ways you can play mid lane. But the general idea is you need to understand who you're against in mid lane, the enemy champion in the mid lane as well. You need to be aware of who that is. And you should play accordingly. Suppose you're if you're winning your lane, if you clear the wave faster than the enemy, unless you're a very slow champion, right? If you move very slowly, then you play slow. Accordingly, you play, right? If you're a champion that's a lot of speed and you can clear the wave faster than your enemy, clear the wave, rotate immediately, because then the enemy laner will not be able to rotate fast enough, and you can go gank some other lane quickly. So the mid lane is a very key point on the map, right? Because it's literally in the middle of the map, right? So it's a very key point on the map, because you cannot lose that first mid lane turret like immediately, because that puts you at a huge disadvantage in terms of vision, because the first turret in the mid lane is so close to the river, correct? I think I did not think about this, but like my mic is not that great, so like what if the audio is not being picked up? Damn, I'm being paranoid. But anyway, so like the first tower in the mid lane is very close, is along the river, right, where the river passes through on the map. So the thing is, if you lose the turret, you lose almost a lot of the vision in the river, because like you moving toward the river after that, losing that tower, if you're the only one in the mid lane, is such a huge risk, because you can get ganked, killed, whatever, because you don't know what's waiting for you in the river, right? And that whole region becomes an immediate red zone, and the enemy has so much more freedom to move, right? So that tower is something you should defend with your life, the mid lane tower, the first tower. And also like think about it, the mid lane is the easiest lane to go to the dragon, to go to the baron, the rift herald, and whatnot, right? So yeah, you should be careful of that. The thing is, if you're playing baron lane, or actually I should have mentioned this, actually I can mention this later, actually. I just said actually 3 times in a row. What was I talking about? So I actually lost my trail of thought, so I had to stop and like check the recording as to what I was saying. I was very nervous, so like it was bound to happen. But yeah, okay. So basically, I was talking about Rift Scuttlers is what I was gonna come to, but that can wait. I'll talk about it in the part where I talk about the junglers, correct? So now let's just finish off the mid lane. Okay, there's a couple of champions in the mid lane I want to talk about. There's champions like Aurelion Sol and Twisted Fate that have like a lot of roam potential, right? Because they can get to any part of the map very quickly. Twisted Fate more so is a little more difficult to use, because like you need to time your teleport, you need to look at the map all the time, you need to know which card to use and whatnot. Aurelion Sol on the other hand, pick where you want to go, use your third skill, use the first skill, you'll have a huge ball the size of your screen, and you can pretty much stun everybody there. So yeah, that's one of these two are the 2 champions that can rotate the fastest from the mid lane. Then we have champions like Ahri and who else? Cannon, not Cannon, Orianna, and who else do I use a lot? Diana. All these champions, they're very situational. For example, Ahri, she can clear the wave very quickly, and then she can rotate and go gank another lane pretty quickly, because the other laner will take some time to catch up. And once she hits level 5, it's pretty much you can kill one person for sure, because you can dash, charm, first skill, third skill, dash, ignite, and whatnot, and you get the idea. You can pretty much kill somebody. Orianna, on the other hand, one of my favorite champions, can carry a whole team in the late game. Early game, she can't do a lot, right? She does damage. She can, depending on the lineup, she may be able to bully the lane, but she's gonna win the lane always. But when it comes to the overall picture, if you want to win the game and if you want to help out in team fights, you need to be very map aware. You need to keep looking at the map. You need to decide who you need to give your ball to, and where to place the ball to ult and whatnot. And then there's like champions like Cannon. I don't really see Cannon anymore, but he can make a huge difference in team fights if he makes it there on time. But like again, it all depends on playstyle. The mid lane is the lane where you can do is the lane where most of the champions you see in the highlight reels, like the flashy plays, and the very kill everybody in a short span of time kind of champions. In the late game, those champions are mostly, all of them are mid lane. For example, Zed. There's even Yasuo, man. Okay, I actually kind of like using Yasuo, and I know how to use Yasuo, but like Yasuo the champion itself has such a bad reputation. if you know your lineup, you can actually use Yasuo. I'm not even joking. But if you pick Yasuo in Wild Rift, people will, immediately hate you because this champion is a hated champion. So I recommend not playing Yasuo, especially if you're in solo queue. Because if you are like second or third pick and you pick Yasuo, the other two below you are most likely going to troll. So like, I'm just giving you advice from my side, yes. But yeah, you get the gist of the idea for the mid lane, right? It depends on your character, but if you clear the wave quicker, right, than the enemy, you rotate, right? If you're a slow champion, you don't, you stay, you farm, and significant team fights are happening, you go join. Otherwise, if you're on the other side of the spectrum where your enemy is rotating faster than you, you make sure you ping your team that something is going to happen so they can back off, and try to get there to help them in a good position, right? If you can't do that, look at the map, think what you can do is best in the situation. For example, 4 people from the enemy team is in the bot lane, right? There's only 2, your dragon laner and your support in the bot lane, right? You think they're going to die for sure, and you going there is not going to make a difference, right? You believe this genuinely, and people still go there, right? Don't do that anymore. Instead, try to focus on something else you can do. Suppose at the same time your jungler is ganking the Baron lane, go help them. Push that lane, kill the Baron laner. 3 of you are in the top lane now. You might be able to get that turret. So always play, by looking at the map. And always the objectives. Always keep an eye on the objectives. Because you have such an advantageous position in the map, make sure to help with the major objectives. Help the jungler with the major objectives. Help him with the scuttlers. Help him with the dragon. Help him with the rift. What is it called? Rift Herald. And Baron, I don't have to say, right? Because like, if you don't go to the Baron when your team is taking Baron, you're just you're gonna get flamed, and you kind of deserve it. Like, yeah. So that's about it for the mid lane. Finally, we have, I believe this is jungle. Okay, so this one probably requires a whole other guide, and this video is gonna be very long anyway. So might as well, I'll give you a gist of jungle. Basically, your job as the jungler is 1, to kill the creeps. The creeps might not be the right word, I'm not really sure, but to anybody new, the easiest way to say the monsters, the things on the map that are not minions and not champions, right? The monsters on the grassy part of the map that is not in the lanes. The monsters like the frog, the buffs, the dragons, the Baron, the Rift Herald, this is all your responsibility, right? So what do? When the game begins, your job is to get your buffs and clear your camps. The camps are the monsters on whichever side you start with, right? Now, depending on which jungler you take, if it's a jungler that uses up a lot of mana, go for the blue buff first. If you don't need that, go for the red buff first, because you do a lot more extra damage. Clear your camps. Kill the monsters, get your gold. Once you have clear up the camps on one side, or whichever side you began from, or if you can depends on the jungler entirely, to be honest. It's a complex role, honestly, I'm not even joking. In my opinion, it's the most complex role. My opinion is biased because I have difficulty playing jungle. I can play jungle, but I feel like it's the most stressful role. Sometimes if you play jungle, you take both the buffs and then some camp, and then you go for the scuttler, right? Sometimes you do that as well. I don't always do that. Sometimes I prefer to clear up camps on one side, depending on the jungler. So the jungler is the most stressful role, and here's why. Okay, after you clear the camps on one side, the rift scuttler, that first rift scuttler is so important in terms of vision, right? And when you go there, there's a very good chance you're gonna contest with the enemy jungler. And that will make all the difference, because depending on your champion, you're either going to win or lose the fight. And also depends on your laners. If your laners come to help you, then well and good, you're probably going to get the Rift Scuttler, you're probably going to get first blood as well. If nobody comes to help you, depending on your champion, the outcome will be different. If the enemy team comes to help the enemy jungler and your team does not come, you're dead. You're going to be first blood, they're going to get the Rift Scuttler, and your entire team is going to flame you for no reason. If you're in solo queue, has happened to me. Doesn't feel good, but yeah, it's a stressful role, but somebody's got to do it, right? So again, I'll just get back to the actual meat and bread and butter of the video. So basically, your job is to clear the camps. That's how you get the gold. You do not touch lane coins, because that's for the laners. You kill the camps, the buffs, the scuttlers. If possible, if you feel like you're safe, then you can take enemy camps as well. And regular intervals, you get your items. Now that's the basic role of the jungler, right? But there's something that a lot of beginning players ignore. you need to gank, okay? Because you are the person who moves around the map the most. You need to gank whichever lane you see an opportunity in. Suppose, okay, you're level 3, you got this cutler. Never mind, you're probably gonna be level 4 if you got this cutler. You look at the map. You look at the map. The mid lane. Both of the mid laners are at like quarter health. You are sure that both of the laners are gonna keep fighting. Rush to the mid lane. Help your mid laner. You'll get that kill for sure. Or your mid laner is gonna get that kill. It's gonna put your team ahead. The other one, the dragon lane. That lane gets ganked the most. You need to keep an eye on that lane the most, because the enemy jungler, there's a very good chance he's gonna gank there. Especially if the dragon or some objective is spawning soon. A gank is probably coming before it. Why? Because if they kill some part of your team, and then after that, if you contest for the objective, even if the remaining members of your team come, they have a numbers advantage. They're probably gonna win the fight, right? So play smart. If you're playing the jungle, map awareness is very, very key, right? So then your objective as the jungler is not only just getting the monsters. Don't forget to gank, right? Look at the map. If the enemy is off position, gank. If the enemy is, suppose sometimes it doesn't even have to be off position. If they are low and you feel like, you can give somebody, some significant character on your team an advantage in terms of gold, force the fight. It's okay. If you feel like the enemy. Another thing, there's this thing called jungle tracking, right? Depending, it's difficult in solo queue. I'm not even gonna lie, because nobody wards. Like you will ward, but very often the people on your team won't use their wards properly, right? So if you have somebody to play with and you place wards properly, you know where the enemy jungler started clearing camps. If he started with the blue buff, he's going to the other side of the map after this to get his red buff, right? If you keep track of the jungle, it will make your life with ganking so much easier, because when the enemy jungler is on the other side of the map, you can gank the opposite lane. But you need to keep in mind, they are also thinking the same thing, right? So you need to assess, will your team die if you're not there in the said lane? If you feel like they won't, gank the other lane. Gank the other lane and put your team at an advantage. That's what you need to do. That's in terms of basic gameplay. Then the major objectives. The dragons, the Rift Herald, and the Baron. Now when it comes to the dragons, again, it all depends on which jungler you're using, but you need to get these objectives, because these objectives will matter at the end of the day. Now in terms of dragons, the Infernal Dragon is the most important dragon. You need to get that dragon. You cannot concede that dragon. Conceding that dragon will make your life much harder in the late game. It might not make a big difference immediately, but the late game, it will make your life a lot harder. The other dragons are also important, but if you feel like your entire team is going to die for one of the other dragons in the early game, it would be much better. I'm talking about the first dragon right now, by the way. If you feel like your entire team is going to die, it would be much better, in my opinion, to go for the Herald. Get the Herald while they're getting the dragon. If you get the Herald, you will probably be one turret ahead as well. So that's in terms of those objectives. And then smiting. Smiting is something you need to be very careful with. Always keep it in memory, or keep an eye on your smite, the value of your smite and the cooldown of your smite. The smite value and the cooldown is very important. And another piece of advice, go for chilling smite. Chilling smite is usually better because of the slowdown. It can help you get away from sticky situations. You can slow down the guy who's trying to kill you and run away, or you can chase down as well. Like you can slow them down and you can go in and kill them, right? Okay, I got distracted by the notification. Another thing, the why you should keep track of the smite value. When you're at an objective, at some point if you've played the game for a while, you've experienced it being stolen, right? So that's why keep an eye on the smite value, because I have so many friends, they smite the dragon at the beginning, and then you don't have smite, and finally it gets stolen. Keep it for when you actually need it. You don't need to use it on every camp you see. In the early game, sure, because you don't have much health, and if nobody's leashing you, you're probably going to have to do it. But like in the later game, don't waste your smite. It's very important for major objectives. So then what about what's left? The Baron, other than the dragon. Okay, the dragons. I probably should explain the dragons. There's 4 types of dragons, right? And they'll spawn one after the other on the map, and the final one is going to be the Elder Dragon. The Elder Dragon gives you a permanent buff, unlike the Baron. So these dragons are very important in terms of the actual flow of the game. Man, this is why I said jungle probably should have been a different guide. It's so long. But yeah, Basically it's part of your job as the jungler to get these objectives, right? Because you're the one who has smite. But don't make this misunderstanding, right? It is everybody's responsibility on the team to help the jungler with the objective. If you don't help your jungler with the objective, you do your own thing in some corner of the map and the entire enemy team comes and kills your jungler, it is not your jungler's fault. If you did not look at the map and even after your jungler pinged 20 times you do not go, you cannot blame your jungler. Stop making this, a thing in the community, because I've seen it so much. It's even like it's a meme online at this point, flaming the jungler for whatever. So it's a very stressful role, I get it. I don't like playing it for the same reason, but like we should pretty much stop flaming the jungler for being bad. Not for being bad, for not being able to do everything on his own, because the jungler is not invincible, bro. You need to help the jungler when things happen, right? So yeah, and then the final objective is the Baron. The Baron is a game changer in my opinion. Like depending on the champion, you can get it at different stages in the game. And once you have it, you can empower your minions. If used properly, it can most likely end a game. Or sometimes it can create situational advantages, like depending on your lineup. But overall, it gives a significant amount of gold, and it gives a buff to all your minions. And like if you suppose for certain characters, I've had events where like I've killed people with my support character when I'm playing support, because I had like an army of like Baron minions with me. Then they couldn't do anything to me. So yeah, the minions do get very strong. So yeah, that's about it, I think, in terms of like roles overall. What do I do next? Do I show you the lanes? Actually no, you guys can figure it out. Maybe I'll talk about some of the battle spells and like how different laners use them, right? Yeah, I'll do that next. So yeah, see you guys very soon. So in terms of battle spells, actually there's a couple of things I haven't seen here before, like Mark and Dash and Clarity, but they're only applicable in the Howling Abyss for now, so I'm not going to talk about them. I'm just talking about the main map, right, for now. So let's go over the spells. Basically, I'll start with the Dragon Lane. So in the Dragon Lane, if you're playing support, use either Heal or Exhaust, right? And like this depends entirely on the lineup. Heal is a safe choice, right? If your ADC is very, your ADC is probably gonna be very squishy, but like how do I put this? As a tank, you want to keep your ADC alive, right? And the enemy team is going to focus your ADC. So it's safe. Heal is a very safe choice, because like you can give them extra HP, and I believe it also gives some movement speed. Yes, it gives 30% bonus movement speed. Can make escape a lot easier. And then there's Exhaust. The thing with Exhaust, it reduces damage dealt, right? So it can be very useful in crippling the enemy team's ADC. Not just in the early game, but later game as well. So in like team fights, if you manage to exhaust the right person, it might make a big difference. My personal preference, I like to use heal on my support characters. I feel like it does the best. Now, for what it does is quite obvious, right? It heals, it gives you back some HP. It gives, 80 health, and it scales, I believe. 80 to 360, it's written there. Exhaust, on the other hand, I use it sometimes depending on the lineup. So, for example, if I'm against Draven in the early game, I like to use Exhaust because I really don't want to deal with his early game damage. It's quite annoying. So yeah, and if you're playing the ADC, Barrier. In my opinion, always go for Barrier. So a mistake I've seen a lot of people do, they go for heal. Your support also goes for heal, correct? The thing is, if you stack heals, it heals half. So if you use one heal and the next heal only does half the heal of the first heal, right? So Barrier is much better. Why? Because you get the full shield from Barrier and also the heal from the heal spell from your support. So if you're playing ADC, always go for Barrier. Now we have mid lane. Let's talk about mid lane. Mid lane depends on the champion, right? A lot of champions, Ignite will work because of the, damage over time. And also because it inflicts grievous wounds. So what grievous wounds is, it halves healing. It halves healing for a certain amount of time. And it does damage also, I believe, just like this thing, Ignite, right? So what I like to do personally, I like to use Barrier. Why? Because I feel like it's a very good measure to save your life. And in the long run, in the game, it's better to not die than to die than to get a kill and die at the same time. I personally believe it is better to stay alive, right? So I like to use barrier, but you can also use ignite depending on what you're playing. But if there's a Mundo on the other team, please use ignite. He heals way too much. If they have Sona, go for ignite, because it's gonna help overall in the team fight. What else do we have? If you are playing Baron lane, again it depends, because like most of them I like to use barrier, but certain heroes, like the ones that can proc shields on their own, like Malphite, use ignite, because ignite can do more for you, because Malphite gets a shield because of his passive at some point, right? Jungler, you go for smite. Why? Because you need smite. It's the best way to clear jungle. It's the best way to secure objectives. If you don't have smite and you try to jungle, I think you also take extra damage, but I could be completely wrong. Let me just read. Oh wait, never mind. If you have smite, I completely forgot about this. If you don't have smite, you get less experience from monsters. So if you have smite, you gain bonus experience, 20% bonus experience. But you earn less gold and less experience from minions. This is good because when you're first playing jungle, this actually discourages you from stealing lane coins, which is a good thing. But yeah, so if you're playing jungle, you need to have smite. That's my whole point. This might not be a good explanation, but that's my whole point. Also, smite gets upgraded to 2 kinds of smite. Personally, just go for chilling smite. Chilling smite is much better. But yeah, and then you have flash. Everybody needs flash. Every single person, because you can have 2 battle spells at a time. Basically what it does, you can move from one position to the other instantaneously. That's what flash is. It has a 150-second cooldown. Must use. You need this spell on pretty much every champion, right? Pretty much. Like, if you're starting out, you can use this on pretty much everybody, because it's very important to have this to escape, because you can flash over walls, over certain places. You can get out of sticky situations. It's very useful. So this is something you need to always have in your, basically one of your 2 spells is always has to be flash, in my opinion. You have ghost as well, and I think this recently got buffed. It just gives you bonus movement speed, and I think it resets with certain condition. I'm not really sure what the condition is. I'm sorry for the bad explanation. Wait, let me just read. Oh right, each time you kill a champion, the duration of ghost gets extended by 6 seconds. So basically what happens is so you get bonus movement speed, right? If you manage to kill a champion while ghost is active, you get 6 seconds more of the same ability. In my personal opinion, this is good for chasing, and it depends extremely on lineup. If you have champions that can chase down and kill a lot, and you are confident that you're gonna chase down and kill, you can use ghost instead of what is it called, flash, right? But I wouldn't recommend it. I would just go for flash. It's much safer overall, especially if you're playing solo queue, right? So yeah, I think that's about it. But let me just go over this again. If you're playing support, go for heal or exhaust. Personal preference on my end, heal. If you're playing ADC, please always take barrier. Always, just go for barrier. If you're playing mid lane, use either barrier or ignite. If they have Mundo, always use ignite. If they have any form of obnoxious healing, it's better you go for ignite for the team fights. But ignite scales off in the late game, and there are other items that can give grievous wounds. So if you feel like you're staying alive is your priority, like I do, stick to barrier. Barrier is, in my opinion, the best spell in the game if you're not a jungler. If you're playing jungle, always go for smite. If you're playing Baron lane, one of these 2 again, preferably barrier. Everybody, make sure you have flash. If you're extremely confident in your skill, or if you feel like you want to mess around, or if you're the only other what is the word for it? Exception is if you are singed, you can go ahead and just use ghost. It's very useful if you're singed. But yeah, that pretty much covers all the spells. I think that's about it. What else can I do? I'll have to think about it. Let me think for a second. I'll get back now. 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I thought about it for a bit. So I decided, like, the last thing I want to talk about is the runes. So let's start with Conqueror. This is the most commonly used rune on almost most of the champions I use anyway. Basically, it does is each time you land an attack on a champion, right, it gives you 1 stack of adaptive force, which basically gives you a certain amount of bonus damage, right? It's so per stack you gain 2 to 6 bonus attack damage or ability power, right? 3 to 9 AP, and this stacks up to 5 times. So on like champions that can, you know, stay in a fight and constantly deal damage, this is a very good rune to have. And like there's a difference in this rune. It gives different buffs to different depending on if you're ranged or melee. If you're melee, it gives you 7% bonus adaptive damage, and if you're if you're melee, it gives you 10%. If you're ranged, it gives you 7%. So this, in my personal opinion, is the best rune right now. I like to use it the most, especially if you can, if you know how to kite, if you know how to, if especially on champions like Oriana, if you can stand at a distance and constantly land attacks, the stacking is quite simple. You will do a buttload of damage, right? And even if you're like a melee champion like Darius, for example, you stack your passive, you stack this, you're gonna do so much damage, dude. So yeah, that's the first rune I wanted to talk about. I should have started from the beginning in order, right? Electrocute. Oh my god, I actually changed the rune, my bad. Wait. So let's talk about electrocute. Might as well, it's okay, it's not a big deal, right? So electrocute, what it does is hitting a champion with 3 attacks will proc burst damage. So this skill, this rune is good on mages, right? Because every 3 hits it will do a certain amount of burst damage, but it has a cooldown of 25 seconds. I use this on Malphite mainly. I don't really remember who else I use this on, but so basically it's good on mage champions. I like to mess around with AP Malphite. It's a guilty pleasure of mine, don't tell anybody, but yeah. So yeah, who else can use this? I think it works on Katarina, but I still like using Conqueror. It works on a whole bunch of mage champions. It even works on Oriana, but again I like to use Conqueror, so yeah, it depends really. So basically, again, like I said, electrocute, what it does, you hit somebody with 3 attacks, they get electrocuted, they get hit by a lightning bolt that does burst damage. And it scales both on AD and AP, but like I usually use it on mages. Then we have Airy. Airy, basically what it does is it sends a certain little thing called Airy to the enemy. You can use this on both caster type supports and certain mages, I believe. I use it on Malphite again for sometimes, a guilty pleasure once again, because it goes with the rock sometimes, the first skill of Malphite. But you can also use it on like I believe Sona maybe. I don't really play a lot of support so I'm not really aware, but basically I can tell you what this ability does do, right? So what it does is it sends Airy to the target. It can be either an enemy or an ally. For example, if you're playing a support character that gives shield to your allies, Airy goes to your ally and it gives bonus shield, right? But if you're using an attack on an enemy, Airy goes to the enemy and does damage. That's basically what it is. And again, once again, it scales with both AD and AP. I already talked about Conqueror. Fleeting Footwork. Okay, so Fleeting Footwork is I don't see it a lot. I use it on Jhin, and I believe I tried it on Vayne as well. Basically, what it does is it's like the item static Shiv. It uses the concept of energy. So what this rune does is, as long as you keep moving and attacking, it builds energy stacks. And when you reach 100 stacks, your next attack heals you. So that's why I like using it on Vayne. It gives you some amount of extra health. Plus it also gives you some more movement speed, I believe. Yes, it does give you movement speed. And like if you're an ADC, the extra movement speed could potentially help you escape from a very sticky situation. But again, I don't really use this a lot. Because I haven't come across circumstances where I'm using this a lot. But again, like I said, it synergizes well with things that use energy once again, like Static Shiv or the Rapid Fire Cannon, I believe. So those work well with Fleeting Footwork because like it boosts your healing by quite a bit and gives you a lot of movement. I do not remember why I was using it on Jhin, but there was some reason, I forgot why. Then we have Grasp of the Undying. I started using this on Malphite now again. Not a guilty pleasure, it actually works in rank. I tried it in rank, in diamond rank very recently because of the tank item buffs. Pretty damn good. Basically what it does is It enhances your attack based on your health, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, it does. But it only procs every 4 seconds. And it heals 2% of your max health. So if you're a very tanky character, this is a good rune on them, because you already have a lot of health. So healing that amount of health is gonna give you like flat health, a lot of flat health. 2% might seem small, but over time it's gonna be a lot of healing. It also permanently increases your health by 5. And what is this? Okay, I didn't even know this, but it does 4% of your max health is magic damage on enemies. So yeah, it's a pretty solid rune on like tanky champions. I use it on Malphite. I like using it on Fiora as well, because it gives her some amount of tankiness. You kind of heal, you hit a weak point and you heal. Feels good, man. Who else do I use it on? Can't remember. I use it on Dr. Mundo. Yeah, it's very good on Dr. Mundo as well. So it's very good on tanks, basically. It's very good on tanky characters. So like this one, Electrocute works very well on mages. Airy works on support and mages. Conqueror works on anybody that's doing a lot of damage and is constantly in fights. Fleeting Footwork, it works on champions, that need a little help in the laning phase, want to heal and whatnot. Especially if you're like a squishy character in the lane, you want to heal, like Vayne. Suppose you're playing Vayne Baron, like, so like if you want a little extra healing in the early game, Fleeting Footwork works for you. Grasp of the Undying for like tanky characters helps a lot. Tanky characters, I mean when they're in the Baron lane or like in the jungle, right? Not in the support lane when you're playing support. Aftershock works on certain supports, okay? I'll be honest with you, I've only used it on Blitzcrank. I've not used it on anybody else. But basically what it does is actually I've used it on Alistar as well, my bad. So basically what it does is after immobilizing an enemy, right? You gain defense, and then you an area around you, the floor cracks, and then you do a lot of not a lot of, like, but some amount of damage, a burst of magic damage. Basically, it's written there. So it buffs your defenses and it scales. How much it buffs your scales based on your items, and it also does damage, and that damage that damage scales. I said Dales, man. I should stop talking. I've been talking for so long now. This video is so long. But anyway, it scales based on your max health and magic damage, right? And it happens every 20 seconds. So like in the early game, it pretty much scales with Blitz's hook, because that hook has such a high cooldown in the early game. Oh, I'm actually tired, dude. Oh my god. Okay. So then we have Font of Life next. Font of Life, what does it do? Alright, so impairing the movement, basically slowing down CC of any sort on an enemy champion, you mark them. After that, any ally who attacks that champion heals, right? Allies who attack marked champions heal, yes. Any ally who attacks a champion that is marked by you heals based on your max health, right? So if you're a very tanky character, again, I've used this on Alistar and Braum. So your champions who attack the enemy heal based on your health. So if you have a lot of health, they're gonna end up healing. It's a very good ability on tanky supports like Braum, Alistar. I think I used it on Rakan as well. So yeah. Finally, we have Kleptomancy. This is a very weird rune. What it basically does is after using an ability, right, you randomly trigger the item effect of any random item. And I don't know, man. I've tried this on 2 heroes, Corki and Blitzcrank. For some reason, I feel like I only proc very often. Most often, I just proc Blade of the Ruin King. I don't even know why. I don't even see other items often. But yeah, I don't really recommend using this. It's not that great. So yeah, that's about it for the major Keystone Rune. If it's called, that's what it's called, Keystone Rune. Keystone Rune. I'm so tired. Keystone Rune. I'm just gonna practice saying that. So that's about it. Let me just set this back to normal. Conqueror. Let's just go through the other ones next. This is the Domination Rune. So these are pretty easy to go through. Brutal is like the standard. It gives you flat attack damage and percentage penetration, depending on like what your character is. Alright. This is a very safe bet. If you don't want to be experimental, just go for this. It works on most champions. Gathering Storm, on the other hand, it's a late game rune. Oh, I need water, dude. I'm so tired. Just give me a second. So basically, what Gathering Storm is every 2 minutes you gain 2 AD or 4 AP. So in the early game, it's not a very useful rune, but as the game goes on, the longer the game is, the stronger you will get. So for late game champions, now this is a very good rune. For example, I've tried this on Galio recently, and it was very good. It also works on a lot of ADCs because they're gonna be strong only in the late game anyway. So if you give them this, by the late game, they're gonna be damage monsters, right? What's next? Hunter Vampirism. Okay, this is lifesteal basically, right? So basically, what it does is you get 2% physical or magical vamp, and each time you get a kill, you get 2 attack damage and 1 more percentage of maximum, 1 more percentage of lifesteal, right? And it's, I think, does it not cap? I thought it had a cap. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. Okay, cool. Anyway, basically this is for champions, that can, you think can get kills and can, potentially stay in the fight longer and heal. I actually use this on Jinx. It might seem odd, but I actually like using it on Jinx because I play Jinx a little aggressively, and I feel like the extra healing actually does help, like in the long term. Again, I'll give you a rundown again. This is flat damage and penetration. This is the late game rune. It gives you stats over time. This is for lifesteal, right? Triumph. Next we have Triumph. What Triumph does is each time you kill an enemy, you restore health, right? You restore 10% of your missing health, and you deal more extra damage to enemies below a certain percentage of health, below 35% health. Personally, I love using this on Darius because I feel like, once you have your stacks, this rune just helps so much because you're just going around killing everything in your vicinity. Next up, we have Weakness. Okay, so what this does is impairing the enemy's movement, makes them take extra damage. This is very good on support characters because a lot of support characters typically have some amount of crowd control, and because having whoever you use the crowd control on take more damage is always a good thing, right? I'm gonna sound so tired in this video by the end. Oh my god. Okay, and finally we have, I'm actually rushing now, I'm so tired. We have the champion rune, right? Basically what the champion rune is, I do not recommend using this in most situations unless you're very confident you're not gonna die. So if you're a beginning player, please don't take this, but if you think you're not gonna die, you can go ahead. Basically what it does is it gives you 10% flat percentage damage, extra damage against champions, but each time you die you lose 5%, right? So if you die twice, it's gone. Then this section of the rune, it's basically like you don't have a rune here, right? So I do not recommend using this at all. Next up we have the Resolve rune, right? Backbone is very straightforward. It gives you 10 armor resistance or magic resistance, attack resistance or magic resistance, depending on whichever your character has less of, right? Very, very straightforward. Then we have Conditioning. It gives you 8 bonus armor and magic resistance after 5 minutes into the game. Hunter Titan, this is one I use quite often. It gives you 20 bonus health, but each time you kill a champion, each time you have a unique champion takedown, you get 20 max health and 4% tenacity. Tenacity is basically when you get CC'd, right? The more tenacity you have, the more likely you are to break free of the crowd control sooner. So basically it's kind of like CC resistance. You will get CC'd, but the duration of the CC reduces the more tenacity you have. Then we have Regeneration. Basically what it does is it gives you either mana or health back, depending on whichever you have lesser of, periodically, right? Every 3 seconds. Every 3 seconds it gives you back either 2% health or 2% mana, depending on whichever you have less of. Then there's Loyalty. This one works quite well on supports once again. You gain 2 armor resistance and 5 magic resistance. Your closest ally champion, again, which is probably gonna be your ADC, gets 5 armor resistance and 2 magic resistance. And then finally you have Spirit Walker. Spirit Walker is, again, it's a safe bet. Gives you 50 I believe, 50 max health and 20% slow resistance. This is good on assassin champions, because if you're going in, you having a little extra health and being slightly immune to slows is going to help a lot, because you need to go in, kill and come out very quickly, right? So this is good on champions like Akali. I actually do use this on Akali. Then finally we have the Inspiration rune. Actually, give me a second, I need some water again, I'm really tired. Finally we have the Inspiration rune. Let's start with the first one, Pathfinder. Pathfinder, basically what it does is if you're outside of battle, it gives you 8% movement speed in the jungle. Basically in the jungle, outside of battle, if you're in the jungle, you get 8% more movement speed. I'll repeat that again because I think I just moved away from my mic for a bit. Pathfinder, if you're outside of battle, in the jungle, it'll give you 8% more movement speed. The next rune is Mastermind. This is a very good rune actually. I like to use this on junglers and some ADCs actually. So basically what it does is, it lets you do 10% more damage to epic monsters and turrets. So basically epic monsters are Dragon, Rift Herald, Elder Dragon and Baron, right? And turrets, you know what turrets are. So, and each time you take down one of these objectives, you get 100 extra gold and 500 XP free. Not free, like it's because you have the rune, but yeah. So this is very good if you're trying to get ahead in the early game. If you have early game champions, very strong early game junglers, and you feel like you're gonna get the turrets easily, you're gonna get the objectives early on, and you might win the team fight. This is a really good rune to have because you're gonna be ahead constantly, right? Then we have Hunter Genius. Again, this is a very good rune. Basically what it does is each time you kill an enemy champion, you get 2.5 ability haste, right? So I like using this on champions, that can kind of wipe out a whole team, like Katarina. You land your skills, you kill somebody, you're already getting cooldown reduction from her ult, from her passive, and then on top of that, with this thing, what is it called? The rune. You can probably ult constantly because your cooldown is instantly gonna end. Then the next one is Sweet Tooth. Personally, this is my favorite rune on this section because one, it increases honey fruit healing and it gives you some amount of gold, 20 gold per piece of this thing, I believe, per piece of the honey fruit, right? So the thing is, this is very useful in the early game. It can save you from dying because it'll let you heal a lot from your honey fruits. It'll give you bonus gold, and it's not entirely, you can't call it a small amount of gold because that gold does matter at the end of the day. It's probably going to be 60 gold, I believe, from one honey fruit, right? So it will help you rush that first item. So on a lot of champions, I really love this, right? Because rushing that first item does count, especially if you manage to get that first item before the first dragon. So this is personally one of my favorite runes. Then we have Pack Hunter. Basically what it does is if you're near an ally champion, you get more movement speed, and so if you're with somebody else and they get a takedown, right, it kind of gives you some gold. Or I think if you wait, let me just read that. You participate in a takedown with, you get 50 gold. Okay, yeah, both of you get, if you're the ally you're with kill somebody, both you and the ally get bonus gold. That's what it is. I feel like this thing, it synergizes very well with Draven, because I remember this one game where I just ended up with a buttload of gold because my support and me were just going around killing everybody, and Draven also gets a bonus gold from his passive. So by the time the dragon was up, I was already more than a K ahead of my lane, and from there on it was a very fun game for me. Oh my god, I'm so tired. Finally we have Mana Flow Band. Oh, this rune cannot be used with the champion. It's Yasuo, that's why. But yeah, thank god they're giving that warning now. So anyway, basically what this does is hitting an enemy champion with any skill or attack, empowered attack, it permanently increases your max mana. So this rune is very good on heroes that struggle with mana, right? on heroes that have trouble managing mana, that run out of mana too quickly. One of those heroes where you're in lane, you use your skills too much, suddenly you're not doing anything, you can't recall. If you recall, you lose your lane, your turret, you lose minions. One of those heroes, go for this rune, because it's gonna be useful. Personally, I don't use it too much, especially with how they just changed the item, the mana item, the mana crystal. I believe now you can stack mana on the basic item, so I believe like this rune is not very useful anymore. So yeah, you can just buy one of those. Oh, I'm actually so tired now. But yeah, I think that's it, right? I covered the lanes, I covered the battle spells, and I covered the runes. Now the items, I think I'll do separately. I'll explain what each item does, because this is already too long. It's probably close to an hour. But yeah, I think that's it, guys. After this video, it's probably gonna be like a gameplay video next, because it's very tiring to make these. It's a lot of talking, and it's gonna be a lot of editing as well, because I'm not very good at it. I'll have to do all the things after I learn how to. I know it's like basic stuff like cutting and whatnot, but like, yeah, I'm very new to it, so I don't really know what to do. But yeah, anyway, guys, thank you for, if you did stick around, consider leaving a like. I'm so embarrassed. Consider leaving a like and a sub if you do like the content, and thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.